The Bengals might be the only NFL team to utilize the franchise tag this year, but there's a lot of context that needs to be fleshed out in order to understand it. So in this video, I'm going to do just that. Hi again, Bengals fans. John Sheeran of A to Z Sports Cincinnati here, and let's talk about the franchise tag that's on its way for Tee Higgins once again. Now, for a quick refresher, this time last year, the Bengals also placed the franchise tag on Tee Higgins for the first time, and it cost them about $21 million to do so relative to, the top salaries of the position and what the salary cap is. Because the Bengals already placed the franchise tag on Higgins a year ago, the price for placing the franchise tag on him again for a second time is already set. When, and not if, but when the Bengals do place that franchise tag, according to a report from James Rapien of BengalsTalk.com, it will cost the Bengals about $26 million to do so. And that price is locked in no matter how much the receiver market has changed since then, no matter what the salary cap is going to be later this week. That price is already known for the Bengals. And it's a price that, on the surface, is a relative bargain for what Tee Higgins could get in free agency, which is the first reason as to why the Bengals would even consider this. But the Bengals tagging Higgins a second time does not mean that everything that happened last year is also happening again this year, because the Bengals used the tag on Higgins the first time last year very early in the 2-week window to actually do so, to signify that both sides were not even remotely close on reaching a new deal. That tag was basically, hey, we're not going to pay you what you and your agent want, so you're going to take this $21 million and you're going to play on it for a year. And notably, Higgins was the only player last year to receive the franchise tag and not get a contract extension afterwards, because for the most part, teams utilize the franchise tag as essentially an extension in order to negotiate a long-term deal with that player. And yeah, it's the non-exclusive franchise tag, so teams can swoop in with 2 first-round picks, but that almost never happens. Higgins had to watch every single franchise player last year get an extension following the team tagging him, just like wide receiver Michael Pittman for the Indianapolis Colts, who had the same agent as Higgins did last year. And speaking of that agency, Athletes First, which still represents Michael Pittman, it no longer represents Tee Higgins, which I feel like I'm mentioning for like the 20th time in the past couple of months, and that makes all the difference in this scenario. Because the Bengals are going to place the franchise tag on Tee Higgins, not because they don't think a deal can get done, but because they do think a deal can get done. And Higgins switching up his agency a couple months ago matters a ton in this regard. And like we talked about last week, if the Bengals are going to re-sign Tee Higgins, it's going to be a deal that's going to be less than what he can get on the free agent market. But whatever deal they manage to agree on, it's still more than likely going to contain an average annual value that's higher than the $26 million that T could earn this year if he just plays on the tag. And that is the Bengals' leverage in this situation. Not only are they going to prevent him from entering free agency, but they're going to offer him a quote-unquote team-friendly deal that's still more attractive than just the franchise tag. And if Higgins is sincere about doing what it takes to stay in Cincinnati, then this situation will in fact be much different than last year's situation, where instead of Higgins requesting a trade right before free agency and the draft, there will be an actual contract extension right before free agency happens. Now, when the Bengals officially place the tag, I think is still up in the air, but you can probably expect that to happen sometime this week. But instead of a bunch of internal disgruntlement and discontent from both sides, everything that's been reported on this new situation seems to be a lot more positive compared to a year ago. And just think about this logically, right? I don't think either the Bengals or Tee Higgins wants to go through another offseason of having the tag over his head and having all that be a distraction during OTAs and minicamp leading up to training camp. Obviously, Higgins did a great job of kind of pushing that to the side and focusing on the 2024 season. But I think if the Bengals were of the mindset that they weren't going to be able to get a deal done, they would just let him enter free agency, or they would tag him with the intent of trading him. And at least from what I've heard, there's been no indication that the Bengals have any interest in trading Tee Higgins. So yes, the Bengals are going to use the tag on Tee Higgins once again. And no, there hasn't been an agreement on a new contract just yet. But expectations remain completely different this time around compared to last year. And it's only a matter of time before we learn if those expectations match what reality will be.